The elaborate Saturday escape of one of Mexico's most powerful drug cartel bosses, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman, from a maximum security prison dominates the headlines and public interest, prompting reactions in the streets that go beyond surprise.
Well, it highlights the corruption that exists in our country, and without a doubt, behind all of this, there are always powerful people.
It was not until at least 2 hours after the drug kingpin had escaped that all the necessary authorities were notified, prompting a delayed manhunt. However, Mexico's president, in a state visit to France, assured that public security forces would quickly reapprehend El Chapo.
This represents an insult to the Mexican state, but also I trust in our institutions, particularly those in charge of public security, which are working as hard as possible to reapprehend this criminal.
The leader of the powerful Sinaloa cartel, who had previously broken out of a maximum security prison in 2001, reportedly escaped through a mile-long tunnel system to a house under construction.
The tunnel has PVC tubes, presumably for ventilation, as well as lighting, and a motorcycle adapted on rails as a mechanism of traction.
Analysts argue that Guzman's escape represents an embarrassing and symbolic blow to the administration's strategy to bring down powerful cartel bosses, while at the same time eradicate deeply rooted corruption. Clayton Khan, teleSUR, Mexico City.
President Evo Morales met with his Argentine counterpart, Cristina Fernández, this Wednesday evening in Argentina's capital, Buenos Aires, where both heads of state signed agreements to strengthen relations between the two nations.
The bilateral agreements, energy agreements of integration, agreements of issues related to health are always of a huge assistance to my country, to the people of my country, and I cannot omit the great solidarity and support dating back to our brother, President Néstor Kirchner.
With democratic stability and with regional integration, we have achieved so much, and I am sure more will be achieved between two sister nations, as are Bolivia and Argentina.
Following the meeting, both presidents headed the opening ceremony to a monument to Latin American independence hero Juana Azurduy amidst a mass celebration of regional integration.
What has been launched today goes far beyond a sculpture, a particular work of art. What I think has been launched is a new look at ourselves. The more we know about Juana Azurduy, the more we will know about our own identity and how we are positioned in our Latin America.
At the site, only about 100 metres away from Government House, for nearly 100 years stood Christopher Columbus. From tonight, the hero of Latin American independence, Juana Azurduy, will be overlooking the executive power for generations to come.
This is a tangible example that we are building Patria Grande, and that in Argentina we can construct a pathway towards our liberation and socialism, and that justice for the people will finally come. This statue here, which replaces the statue of Christopher Columbus, is an impressive symbol of how much our peoples, when united and in struggle, can achieve.
President Evo Morales' two-day state visit to Argentina continues on Thursday, where he's scheduled to participate in a rally in support of Bolivia's claim to sovereign access to the Pacific Ocean before he flies to Brazil ahead of this weekend's summit of the Common Markets of the South, Mercosur. Leo Politegoduti, teleSUR, Buenos Aires.
Ahead of the vote in Parliament, Alexis Tsipras fought hard to contain the revolt within his own ranks. The parliamentary speaker is one of the leading voices on the left of Syriza.
It is obvious that the Parliament cannot and should not legislate under these stifling deadlines that put in danger the quality of the democratic procedure. In order to implement a policy from the Prime Minister, whom I honour immeasurably, I would like to point the dimension his position has today. It has the role of supreme selflessness. However, this Parliament should not complete the blackmail, should not accept the blackmail towards the government.
Meanwhile, a major difference has emerged between the IMF and Germany. An analysis by the fund says it will not take part in the deal imposed by EU leaders because it won't work, unless it includes large-scale debt relief. That's something Germany and its hardline allies in Northern and Eastern Europe have always ruled out. The IMF position is supported by the US and France.
The IMF is saying the same thing as we are.
What is the IMF saying since the beginning? It says it's necessary to help Greece. We need solidarity, but we cannot help Greece if we maintain the same debt reimbursement burden on the Greek.
These public sector workers are already expressing their dissatisfaction with the deal. Their union called a 24-hour strike to reject the pension reforms, tax hikes, and repeal of anti-austerity measures already passed by the Syriza government. They called on Parliament to reject the reforms demanded by the creditors.
The new bailout is completely unacceptable. What can one say? They are taking us 100 years back. The people cannot tolerate what's happening. If the Greek people went poor during the 5 previous years, now they will get even poorer. The situation is unacceptable.
This government deceived the people, claiming it can clinch an agreement that can be good for the people within the framework of the European Union. This proves to be a lie.
This is a new government with old-school policies which can only lead Greek society to poverty and wretchedness. However, for us this is the beginning of a new fight, a tough fight in order, in case the new bailout is voted in, to overthrow like we have been doing for the past few years.
With dissent on the streets and contradictions among the creditors, the future of this deal looks precarious to say the least. Even after the reforms are passed, many question whether they can ever be implemented, and what the effect on the people of Greece might be. Julian Moldavin, teleSUR. teleSUR.
Measures to de-escalate the conflict was the latest government announcement following the FARC's decision to revive a unilateral truce. And even though a bilateral ceasefire still needs to be agreed, social organizations see with hope that Colombia is now one step closer to a cessation of hostilities.
Those announcements seeking a bilateral cessation of hostilities will create a suitable environment for the public opinion and for the confidence of Colombians toward the peace process.
The 4 months following the 20th of July, when the FARC's unilateral truce will be set in place, are going to be crucial. That's the time lapse in which the government is expected to start implementing reciprocal de-escalation measures.
The civil society is going to put pressure through street mobilizations, public deliberations, statements, initiatives, so that the next 4 months do not pass without a bilateral ceasefire. We obviously want this bilateral ceasefire as soon as possible.
A pressing issue is to raise awareness on what Colombia gains from a de-escalation of the confrontation, something that, even though it was clear during the last FARC's unilateral ceasefire, was not valued enough.
It did not get much attention, and once it was lifted, and the bombings and the deaths came back, then Colombians were shocked and mad. That is understandable, but that's also why this time we should value the unilateral ceasefire.
The peace delegations in Havana have also requested the presence of a delegate from the United Nations and the UNASUR, something that was also welcomed by peace advocates in Colombia.
The president of UNASUR, who is Uruguayan, as well as the Secretary General Ernesto Samper, know in depth the Colombian conflict, and they really can, without any personal interests, contribute in a credible, reliable, and fundamental way to the peace process.
Social organizations have announced that the National Encounter for Peace on the 22nd and the 23rd of July, as they believe that social mobilization is going to be crucial in the upcoming weeks and months. Natalia Margarita, teleSUR, Bogotá, Colombia.
Opposition leaders are meeting to discuss the future actions they will take against the government of President Rafael Correa. The National United Collective of Workers, Indigenous, and Social Organizations, known as SIDOCUD, met to evaluate the marches of the past month, common demands, and begin defining the date for a national strike.
On the 18th, we will possibly announce the national strike. We picked this date for the announcement because the 17th and the 18th is the National Assembly of CONAIE. We are respecting each of the organizations that make up this bloc. We can move forward with the date until all sectors have met the objective of the meetings within their own organizations.
The National Dialogue on Wealth Redistribution and Social Equality has encouraged the participation of all sectors of society, but the opposition continues refusing to enter the debate. A manual by Gene Sharp on soft coup tactics used to overthrow regimes was cited by President Correa as being followed by the opposition in their attempts to destabilize his government.
In Ecuador, we can take this manual and look at how its phases are applied with exact times, months, with dates because they have been using it constantly.
President Correa said that the government still counts on the support of the armed forces, despite rumors put forward by opposition media which suggested otherwise. Meanwhile, he has warned citizens of tactics used by the opposition, such as constant mobilizations and the creation of incidents, as being part of this manual.
Nobody said this was going to be easy, but we cannot lose our happiness. We need to be more alert than ever, because these people will continue. And what they are following is the manual of soft coups. Everyone needs to be aware of this. We should all know what is happening in the country to know what we are up against and to be ready to defend our revolution.
Citizens have been warned that conditions for a soft coup are being set by the opposition. While the national dialogue is reaching out to increasingly more sectors across the country, the opposition has said that in the next week they will formally announce the date of the national strike and will continue marching. Liz Sherpius, teleSUR, Ecuador.
Israeli settler attacks on Palestinian holy sites continued for the second day in a row, rising tensions between Palestinians and Israelis in the West Bank. This morning, eyewitnesses said that a group of Israeli extremists spray-painted anti-Christian slogans on the wall of a Greek Orthodox seminary located in the old-occupied city of Jerusalem. A similar incident occurred just southwest of the city of Bethlehem when extremist Israeli settlers set fire to Al-Huda Mosque in the town of Jabba.
They are the exact meaning of a hate crime. This is racism in all its meaning. Apparently the Israeli settlers are not after Muslims alone, but they're also after Christians, which means that they want to destroy everything that has a Palestinian identity. Sadly, the world is silent. Sadly, rarely anyone cares for us Palestinians. So we have to face this alone.
Meanwhile, on Sunday, Israeli police said they had arrested several Jewish suspects over an arson attack last month at a shrine where Christians believe Jesus performed the miracle of loaves and fish. Recently, there has been a number of attacks on Christian and Muslim holy places in both Israel and the occupied West Bank, in which the suspects were believed to be Jewish extremists. Noor Harazin, teleSUR TV, Gaza.